Today, we're talking about one of the most transparent political hit jobs I've seen in a long time. The Democrats just released selected emails from Jeffrey Epstein's files, conveniently timed right as their catastrophic government shutdown was falling apart. This isn't about justice. This isn't about accountability. This is about distraction, pure and simple. The Democrats just spent 43 days shutting down the government. Air travel was disrupted, food stamp distribution stopped, federal workers went without pay. And for what? They got almost nothing in return. They lost badly. The American people were furious. So, what do? They released cherry picked emails from Jeffrey Epstein, a dead pedophile who can't defend or clarify anything, trying to implicate President Trump. They leaked selected quotes to friendly media. They held press conferences. They created maximum headlines. And then, when people actually read the full context of those emails, the narrative fell apart. Epstein literally wrote that Trump never participated in anything, that he never got a massage, that Trump knew about the girls and told Maxwell to stop. But Democrats buried that part. They only wanted the headlines that said Trump knew. And when the full emails made them look stupid, they quietly took them down. They scrubbed them, memory holed them, hoped no one would notice. Well, I noticed, you noticed, and we're going to talk about it. Today, we're going to walk through exactly what happened during the government shutdown, why the Democrats desperately needed to change the subject, what the Epstein emails actually say versus what Democrats claimed they say, the long history of Democrats trying to tie Trump to Epstein despite the evidence, and why this tactic keeps failing. We'll look at the facts, the timeline, and the blatant manipulation. Because this isn't just about defending Trump, though we'll do that with facts. This is about exposing how corrupt our political system and media have become, how they manufacture scandals, how they lie by omission, how they weaponize dead people's words to attack political opponents. This is information warfare, and if we don't understand how it works, we'll keep falling for it.
Courage, compassion, faith, freedom, truth. Welcome to Courage in the Darkness with your host, Philip Roberts. It's time to awaken America.
Let me set the stage because you need to understand how badly the Democrats screwed up to understand why they needed this distraction. In December 2024, Democrats shut down the government. They had demands, massive spending increases, funding for their pet projects, changing to immigration that would make the border even more porous. And they refused to pass a budget unless Republicans gave them everything they wanted. Republicans held firm. Trump backed them up. The government shut down. Democrats thought they had leverage. They thought they could blame Republicans and Trump. They thought the American people would panic and force Republicans to cave. They were wrong. Spectacularly wrong. The consequences were real. The shutdown lasted 43 days. That's the longest in recent history. And it hurt people. Federal workers went without paychecks. TSA agents, air traffic controllers, park rangers, they all worked without pay or got furloughed. Yeah, they get their pay eventually, but in the meantime, they couldn't pay their mortgages or buy groceries. Air travel was disrupted. TSA lines got longer. Some airports had security delays. Flights were affected. Travelers were angry. Food stamp distribution was delayed. Millions of Americans on SNAP benefits faced interruptions. Democrats claimed to care about the poor, but their shutdown directly harmed them. National parks closed or operated with minimal staff. Tourist destinations were affected. Small businesses near parks lost revenue. Federal courts ran out of funding and had to scale back operations. Justice was delayed. The economic impact was massive. Billions of dollars lost. Consumer confidence dropped. Stock market volatility increased. And what did the Democrats get for all this pain? Almost nothing. Republicans won. This is what the Democrats don't want you to remember. They lost badly. After 43 days, they caved. They agreed to a budget that gave them almost none of what they demanded. Republicans got most of what they wanted. Trump declared victory. The polls were devastating for Democrats. Most Americans blame them for the shutdown. Even their own voters were frustrated. The strategy backfired completely. So Democrats had a problem. They just put the country through 43 days of unnecessary pain, and they had nothing to show for it. They looked incompetent. They looked like they cared more about politics than people. They looked like losers. They desperately needed to change the subject fast. Right as the shutdown was ending, right as Americans were starting to process how badly Democrats had failed, suddenly the Epstein files appear. The House Oversight Committee, controlled by Democrats, released thousands of pages of documents from the Epstein estate. And they didn't just release them quietly. They held a coordinated media blitz, press conferences, leaked quotes, friendly journalists writing hit pieces, all focused on one thing. Trump knew about Epstein's activities. Never mind that these documents had been available for months. Never mind that there was no new information of substance. Never mind that the full context of the emails actually exonerated Trump. The timing was the point. Create a scandal. Dominate the news cycle. Make people forget about the shutdown disaster. And Trump called them out immediately. He said on social media, the Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try to deflect from their massive failures. In particular, their most recent one, the shutdown. He was absolutely right. This was a coordinated distraction, and we're going to prove it. What the emails actually say. So, let's look at these, and let's look at what they actually say. Because this is where the Democrats' narratives completely fall apart. The key email from February 2019, where Epstein wrote to himself about Trump, here's what it actually said. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. Epstein wrote in an email to himself, he never got a massage. Read that again. He never got a massage. In Epstein's world, massage was code for sexual activity with the girls he trafficked. Epstein is literally saying Trump never participated. Democrats highlighted Trump knew of it and buried he never got a massage. They want you to think Trump was complicit. But the full quote shows the opposite. Trump knew something was wrong and didn't participate. There's another email from January 2019 to author Michael Wolff where Epstein says, of course, Trump knew about the girls and that Trump asked Maxwell to stop, but doesn't specify what he was referring to. Again, Democrats focused on knew about the girls and ignored that Trump told Maxwell to stop. If Trump was participating, why would he tell her to stop? These emails are from 2019. Epstein wrote them while he was under investigation and facing charges. He was trying to explain relationships, deflect blame, and create narratives that might help him. But Here's what we know from the actual timeline. Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2007 when he found out what Epstein was doing. That's documented. Multiple sources confirm it. Trump's company lawyer told the Washington Post in 2019 that Trump kicked Epstein out because he was a pedophile. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. So the timeline is Trump socialized with Epstein in the late 90s and early 2000s when Epstein was a wealthy financier who socialized with everyone. Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, countless celebrities and politicians. Then Trump found out about Epstein's activities. Trump cut ties. Trump banned him from his properties. That was 2007. Epstein was arrested in 2008 for his first set of charges. He got a sweetheart plea deal, but that's a different scandal we'll get to. He went to prison briefly, got released, and continued his activities more quietly. Trump had nothing to do with him after 2007. They had a falling out. Trump publicly stated that he didn't like Epstein and hadn't spoken to him in years. Democrats released these emails trying to create the impression that Trump was involved or complicit. But when you read the full context, it's exonerating. Epstein confirms Trump never participated. Epstein confirms Trump told Maxwell to stop. The timeline shows Trump cut ties 18 years ago when he found out. But Democrats didn't want you to know that. So they cherry-picked quotes. They leaked to friendly media who wrote misleading headlines. They held press conferences highlighting Trump knew without mentioning never got a massage. And when people started reading the full emails and pointing out the context, Democrats quietly took them down. They scrubbed the documents from their website. They stopped talking about it. If these emails really proved what they claimed, why would they hide them? Why not keep them front and center? Because the full truth undermined their narrative. And they were counting on most people only seeing the headlines, not reading the actual documents. This isn't the first time Democrats have tried to tie Trump to Epstein. They've been doing it for years. And every time the accusations fall apart under scrutiny. During the 2016 campaign, a lawsuit was filed claiming Trump raped a 13-year-old girl at an Epstein party in 1994. The media went crazy. Democrats pushed it hard. Then the accuser dropped the lawsuit twice. She refused to appear in public. She refused to be deposed. The lawsuit was full of inconsistencies and impossibilities. It was completely fabricated, a political hit job. But not before the media ran with it for weeks, creating the impression that Trump was a pedophile. Democrats constantly claimed Trump was on Epstein's private jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express, flying to his private island where much of the abuse occurred. Flight logs have been public for years. Trump's name appears once on a domestic flight from Florida to New York. He never went to the island. He never took international flights with Epstein. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton's name appears on the flight logs 26 times. He took multiple trips to the island. He traveled internationally with Epstein repeatedly. Secret Service agents have testified that Clinton ditched his security detail to fly with Epstein. But Democrats don't want to talk about that. They want you to think Trump was the one taking the sex trafficking flights. Democrats love to share photos of Trump and Epstein together at parties in the 90s and early 2000s. Look, they were friends. Yeah, so? Epstein was a wealthy guy who socialized with everyone. There was photos of Epstein with Bill Clinton, with Bill Gates, with countless celebrities and politicians. Being in a photo at a party doesn't prove anything. The difference is that when Trump found out what Epstein was doing, he cut ties. Others didn't. Democrats constantly cite a quote from 2002 where Trump said of Epstein, he's a lot of fun to be with. And it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. They claim this proves Trump knew Epstein was a pedophile. But read the quote carefully. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. It is even said. That's hearsay. Trump is repeating something he's heard, not claiming firsthand. And younger side, in the context of adult women, just means 20s instead of 40s. Nothing in that quote suggests underage girls. This was 2002, 6 years before Epstein's first arrest, when most people knew him as a wealthy financier who dated models and celebrities. Trump is making a joke about Epstein liking younger adult women, but Democrats take it out of context and claim it's proof Trump knew Epstein was trafficking children. It's absurd. You know who has actual documented extensive connections to Epstein? Democrats and their donors. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 times. There, I got to say it again. Visited his island, traveled internationally with him. Secret Service logs show Clinton ditched security to be alone with Epstein and the girls. Bill Gates met with Epstein repeatedly after his 2008 conviction. Gates flew on his plane, visited his Manhattan townhouse multiple times. Email shows Gates seeking Epstein's advice and assistance. Prince Andrew, not a Democrat, but definitely part of the elite they protect, was credibly accused by Virginia Giuffre of sexual abuse. He paid her millions to settle. Leslie Wexner, billionaire CEO of Victoria's Secret and major Democratic donor, gave Epstein power of attorney over his finances. Epstein managed Wexner's entire fortune and allegedly used Victoria's Secret to recruit girls. The list goes on, but Democrats don't want to investigate any of that. They only want to attack Trump. Let me give you some background on Epstein, because understanding who he was explains a lot about why this is a political weapon. The financier who wasn't. Epstein claimed to be a brilliant financier who managed money for billionaires, but nobody could ever verify this. His clients were secret, his methods were secret, his wealth comes from somewhere. Many investigators believe Epstein was actually running an intelligence operation, that he was blackmailing powerful people by luring them into compromising situations with underage girls, recording it, and using it for leverage. Whether it was CIA, Mossad, or just his own private operation is unclear. But there's substantial evidence that Epstein wasn't primarily a financier. He was a blackmailer and intelligence asset. Epstein was arrested in 2008 on charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. The evidence was overwhelming. The FBI had dozens of victims. They had evidence with a massive sex trafficking operation. And then something strange happened. Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney handling the case, gave Epstein a incredibly lenient plea deal. Epstein pled guilty to minor state charges, served 13 months in a county jail with work release, meaning he left jail during the day, and was required to register as a sex offender. That's it. For running a sex trafficking ring involving dozens of underage girls. No federal charges, no serious prison time. Why? Acosta later said he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to back off. That's a direct quote. Someone with power protected Epstein. In 2019, Epstein was arrested again on federal sex trafficking charges. This time, the evidence was even more overwhelming. He was denied bail, he was in federal custody, and then he allegedly committed suicide in his cell, despite being on suicide watch, despite the cameras mysteriously malfunctioning, despite the guards falling asleep, despite the broken bones in his neck being more consistent with homicide than suicide. By the way, I should have stated at the beginning, I'm not suicidal in any way, most of the time. Nobody believes it was suicide. He was either killed or allowed to kill himself to prevent him from talking. Because if Epstein had gone to trial, a lot of powerful people would have been exposed. Epstein kept a detailed records. Like, he had this black book with contact information for hundreds of powerful people. Flight logs for his private jet, guest logs for his properties. These documents have been released over time, and they show connections to presidents, prime ministers, royalty, celebrities, business moguls. Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, Americans and foreigners. This is why Epstein is such a powerful political weapon. Everyone wants to use his connection against their enemies while protecting their own side. So, why do the Democrats keep trying to connect Trump to Epstein when the evidence doesn't support it? Trump actually helped prosecutors. Here's something Democrats never mention. Trump voluntarily cooperated with prosecutors investigating Epstein. Bradley Edwards, the attorney representing many of victims of Epstein, said that in 2009, Trump was the only high-profile person who cooperated with his investigation. Trump provided information, he answered questions, he helped. If Trump was guilty of anything, why would he voluntarily talk to prosecutors? Guilty people lawyer up and refuse to cooperate. Innocent people help catch the bad guy. As I mentioned earlier, Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2007 when he found out about Epstein's activities with underage girls. Trump told reporters in July of 2019 about a victim whose name is redacted but was identified as Virginia Giuffre, a teenage spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago whom Maxwell recruited. People were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone, Trump said. Yeah, he stole her. Trump knew Epstein was recruiting girls from his property, and he kicked him out. That's not the action of someone complicit. That's the action of someone who found out about criminal behavior and wanted nothing to do with it. Democrats target Trump over Epstein for one simple reason. Trump is a threat to the establishment that Epstein was connected to. Epstein's network included powerful Democrats, corporate elites, intelligence agencies, foreign governments. The people who benefited from his blackmail operation, the people who protected him, Trump isn't part of that club. He's an outsider who threatens their power. So they use Epstein as a weapon against him while protecting the people actually connected to Epstein's crimes. This is about power and protecting the corrupt system, not about justice for victims. Let's talk about how the media enables this. Because with without a corrupt media, Democrats couldn't pull this off. Selective reporting, when Democrats released the Epstein emails, the media immediately ran with the story. Headlines everywhere. Epstein says Trump knew about sexual abuse. They highlighted the incriminating sounding quotes. They buried the exonerating context. They didn't mention never got a massage. They didn't mention Trump telling Maxwell to stop. They didn't mention Trump banning Epstein. Just the parts that make Trump look bad. The media never asked basic questions like, why are the Democrats releasing this now, right after losing the shutdown? Why are they only releasing selected emails? What does the full context say? Why should we trust the word of a dead pedophile who is facing charges? Any objective journalist would ask those questions, but they didn't, because they wanted the story to be true. When the narrative fell apart, the media just moved on. No corrections, no follow-up stories explaining the full context, no accountability. They got the damaging headlines out there. Mission accomplished. Most people only saw those initial stories. The correction never reaches as many people as the lie. Meanwhile, the media shows zero interest in Democrats' actual connections to Epstein. Clinton's 26 flights, not newsworthy. Gates meeting with Epstein after his conviction, nothing to see here. The sweetheart plea deal arranged by officials in a Democratic administration, old news. Only Trump's tenuous connections matter. Only Trump needs to be investigated. Only Trump deserves scrutiny. This isn't journalism. This is propaganda. The Epstein distraction is part of a larger pattern. Democrats manufacture scandals to distract their failures and attack their opponents. Remember the Trump-Russia collusion narrative? The media spent 3 years telling us Trump was a Russian agent. There were investigations, special counsel's daily bombshell reports that turned out to be nothing. The Mueller report found no collusion. The whole thing was based on a fake dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign, but it dominated the news for years, crippled Trump's first term, and poisoned public discourse. Democrats impeached Trump over a phone call with Ukraine's president. They claimed he was withholding aid to pressure Ukraine to investigate Biden. The transcript shows nothing improper. The Senate acquitted him, but it didn't matter. They got the headlines. They damaged Trump politically. They distracted from Democratic failures. Democrats impeached Trump a second time after January 6th, claiming he incited insurrection. He literally told people to peacefully protest. The Senate acquitted him again. But they got to call him an insurrectionist for years. They used it to justify censoring him, deplatforming him, investigating him. The FBI raided Mar-a-Lago over classified documents. They leaked photos to the media showing documents spread across the floor, which the FBI had staged for the photo. Trump had been cooperating. He had declassification authority as president. The Presidential Records Act gives former presidents wide latitude, but Democrats acted like he was selling nuclear secrets. Meanwhile, Biden had classified documents in his garage from his time as vice president, when he had no declassification authority. and the media barely covered it. Democrats created a show trial committee to investigate January 6th. They held primetime hearings, they leaked selective evidence, they destroyed exonerating evidence, and then, when Republicans took control of the Congress and released the full footage and documents, it showed Democrats had lied about key facts. But the media didn't cover that. Every single one of these scandals follows the same pattern. Democrats manufacture or exaggerate a scandal. Media amplifies it with wall-to-wall coverage. Investigation finds nothing or the narrative falls apart. Media moves on without accountability. Damage to Trump's reputation already done. The Epstein files are just the latest iteration. Democrats had a political crisis, the shutdown, needed a distraction, and weaponized Epstein against Trump, despite the evidence. In all of this political theater, the real victims get forgotten. The girls and women Epstein trafficked and abused, Virginia Giuffre, a teenage spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago, whom Maxwell recruited in 2000, died by suicide earlier this year at 41. She spent decades trying to get justice and expose the powerful men who abused her. She suffered immensely, and she's gone. There are dozens of other victims. Many haven't come forward publicly because of shame, fear, or trauma. They're trying to heal and move on with their lives. And what do the Democrats do? They exploit Epstein's crimes for political gain. They don't care about getting justice for victims. They don't care about exposing everyone connected to Epstein. Just Trump. If Democrats actually cared about victims, they'd be investigating everyone. Clinton, Gates, Prince Andrew, all the names in the Black Book. They'd be demanding accountability for the prosecutors who gave Epstein the sweetheart plea deal. They'd be investigating who protected him. But they're not doing any of that because this was never about justice. It was about politics. And that's disgusting. These women suffered horrific abuse. They deserve real justice. Not to have their trauma weaponized for partisan attacks. Let me tell you what they should do. What should happen if anyone actually cared about the truth and justice? Full release of all documents. Every document related to Epstein should be released. No redactions, except for minor victims' names. No selective leaks. Everything. Flight logs, guest logs, black books, communications, financial records, video footage that Epstein allegedly kept. Everything. Let the public see who was actually involved. Let the chips fall where they may, Republican or Democrat. Someone needs to answer for how Epstein got that sweetheart deal. Who pressured Acosta? Who told him Epstein belonged to intelligence? Who protected Epstein? Alexander Acosta testified to the House Oversight Committee, but we need more. We need a full investigation into corruption in that case. Epstein's death was highly suspicious. The cameras malfunctioned, the guards fell asleep, the injuries don't match suicide. And again, I'm not suicidal, just putting that out there in case somebody tries to Hillary Clinton me. The timing was convenient. Someone needs to fully investigate whether he was murdered or allowed to kill himself. Because if powerful people can kill inconvenient witnesses, our justice system means nothing. Maxwell is in prison, good. But she wasn't the only one helping Epstein. Who else recruited? Who else facilitated? Who else participated? Prosecute them all, no matter how rich or powerful they are. The victims deserve compensation from Epstein's estate. They deserve their day in court. They deserve to be believed and supported. They shouldn't be politicized. These are women who were abused as children. They deserve justice regardless of the politics involved. But none of this is happening because the people in power don't want it. They want to use Epstein as a political weapon while protecting themselves. Trump handled this perfectly. He immediately called out what Democrats were doing. He didn't let them control the narrative. He pointed out the timing. He forced people to see this for what it was, a desperate distraction. And then he let the facts speak. Because the facts are on his side. The emails don't implicate him. They exonerate him. The timeline shows that he cut ties with Epstein decades ago. His cooperation with prosecutors shows he wanted Epstein caught. Trump has nothing to hide on Epstein. If he did, he wouldn't be demanding full release of all the files. He wouldn't be calling for investigations. He'd be trying to bury it like Democrats are doing for their own side. This is why they hate him. Because he fights back. He doesn't let them get away with their lies. He exposes their tactics. Let me bring this home. The Epstein Files release was a coordinated political hit job designed to distract from Democrats' catastrophic failure in the government shutdown. They cherry-picked emails from a dead pedophile. They leaked quotes out of context to friendly media. They created headlines that were technically true but fundamentally misleading. And then, when people read the full context and saw through the lies, they quietly scrubbed the documents and moved on. This is what information warfare looks like. This is how corrupt our political system and media have become. But we're not falling for it anymore. We read the full documents. We check the context. We verify the facts. We remember the timeline. And we call out the lies. The truth is simple. Trump knew Epstein socially decades ago when Epstein was a wealthy financier who socialized with everyone. Trump found out what Epstein was doing. Trump cut ties. Trump banned him from his properties. Trump cooperated with prosecutors. Trump has nothing to hide. Meanwhile, Democrats are protecting the people who actually have extensive connections to Epstein. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, wealthy donors, intelligence agencies, the corrupt prosecutors who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal. This isn't about justice for victims. If it were, Democrats would be investigating everyone connected to Epstein, not just Trump. This is about politics, power, distraction. And we're not going to let them get away with it. I want to leave you with a verse that speaks to this entire situation. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19 says, "Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment." Democrats' lies about Trump and Epstein will be forgotten. The truth will endure. Trump cut ties with a pedophile when he found out what he was doing. That's the truth. And no amount of political manipulation can change that. Stay vigilant, stay informed, don't let them gaslight you. Read the full context, verify everything, and remember, when politicians desperately change the subject, it's because they don't want you thinking about their failures. If you found this episode helpful, please share it, like it, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future conversations. And if you found value in what I'm doing or want to support this work, consider becoming a member on Patreon at Courage in the Darkness, where you can get free merch and find more content. Thank you for listening. Stay free, speak truth, and God bless.